All right, Wayne Allyn The Root is on fire from Las Vegas. Speaking of on fire, hopefully I don't have to fire on somebody, but Bond Arms is the sponsor of this show. They're a gun manufacturer out of Texas, right in the Dallas suburbs. We now have a gun worthy of President Trump's 250th anniversary celebration. Look at that gun. Who does not want that gun? I've got two of them now, one in silver, one in black. It's only $499 if you're a fan of Wayne Allyn Root. It's supposed to be $599, but you get it for $491. $499, the Bond Arms America 250 edition handgun, America made, Texas made, precision crafted, built like a tank, performs like a hand cannon, takes shotgun shells. Bond Arms builds the smallest, most powerful personal protection handgun you can carry. It's designed to honor America's past, built to last for generations, a work of art to hand down to your family. And I stress again, it's a hand cannon that takes shotgun shells, and you can keep it in your pocket. You can keep it in your waist. Go to getbondarms.com, getbondarms.com. How would you like to be facing that barrel right now? Shotgun shell. Getbondarms.com, and you get $100 off, and that's $499. But that's only one of the guns they've got. They've literally got like 100 guns. I mean, I saw them all at the gun show. And every one of them is artistic and designed. They're works of art. They're beautiful. They're powerful. And some of them are only $299, and you get a rebate. Some of them are really small pistols for women in pink with designs with Melania's face on it and Melania's name on it. And they're only $299, and you get a rebate on top of that. So go check it out, getbondarms.com. All right, Scott Davis is with us. Our guest segment is the author of The Last of the Old Breed, an oral history of the final Marines from World War II. You can find more about him at scottdavisbooks.com, scottdavisbooks.com. Scott Davis, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I'm Wayne Root. I'm glad to have you on. Let me tell you my story. My dad, David Root, was in the United States Navy, fought in World War II at Saipan and Okinawa. He was on loan from the Navy to the, I believe, if I'm not incorrect here, I'm pretty sure I'm right, the 6th Marine Division in Okinawa. He was a radio operator and served literally in the fiercest battles of Okinawa, behind enemy lines, deep in enemy territory, with the 6th Marine Division that were the ones that really, were the door kickers. And my father, David Root, came out of that war alive and well, thank God, and that's why I'm here today. So this book caught my eye. Memorial Day just ended. It's important to recognize and honor our veterans. And tell us about this book and the last days of the gung-ho, oorah Marines of World War II.
Well, first off, I want to say appreciate your father's service. 6th Marine Division really went through it on Okinawa. So in my eyes, he's a hero. So we really appreciate him. But this book is an oral history of the final living Marines from World War II. I interviewed 130 guys. They're ranging in age from 90 to 103. Just incredible people that fought across the Pacific from Guadalcanal to Okinawa. Incredible people.
And what was the theme that came out of it? I mean, what did you learn? What was the wisdom from interviewing this amazing assortment of people, 90 to 103 years old? And that makes sense because my dad died all the way back in 1992 of cancer. He was 66 years old when he died in 1992. So today, 92 to 2002 to 2012 to 2022. So 34 years ago. So my dad would be 100 years old now, right? About 100 years old. So I understand why they were that age. That's where they'd be if he was alive. So what did you learn from speaking to these incredible heroes?
I learned so much. It's really hard to put your finger on one thing. They lived such varied lives, but they all really contributed to this country when they came home from the service. And that was always what struck me, is that, despite what they'd been through, the horrors of what they'd seen, they came back and they moved on and they, served. They became teachers and built this country. And lessons learned, it's hard to say, but I suppose just how to conduct yourself and be patriotic. They were just great people.
Over 16 million Americans served in the armed forces during World War II, and less than 60,000 are alive today. And I happen to be Jewish by birth, and I know there's also very few Holocaust survivors alive today. We're in the last days of Holocaust survivors and World War II veterans being alive to tell us their real experiences. It's pretty scary because they're all going to be gone. and they are, they are heroes, and it's important to recognize them. And this is the 250th anniversary of America. So what a perfect timing to celebrate the World War II veterans.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the catalyst for the book, is that I recognize that these guys are disappearing, and there's going to be a lot of people from my generation that are never going to meet a World War II veteran. So this book was just an attempt to document some of these stories and make it so in 100 years from now, somebody can pick it up and hear directly from the guys, there's no commentary or anything like that. You hear directly their words, the way they saw it, what they experienced and felt. So that was kind of the idea, is we could hand these stories on to another generation, a new generation.
How did you find these people? Where do you find Marines in between 90 and 103 years old who fought in World War II? Where do you look that up?
Yeah, I got to tell you, that's a lot harder than actually writing the book, tracking the guys down, and getting them to talk to you. It's a famously reticent generation. But I looked everywhere I could. Somebody, if their grandfather turned 95 and said, "Oh, 95-year-old World War II Marine had in there having a birthday," they posted on Facebook. You'd find it that way. I dig through old newspapers, and if somebody talked to a newspaper for the 65th anniversary of Iwo Jima, I thought, maybe they'll talk to me. And it was a lot of doing that, just, doing the kind of groundwork and any lead I could find, contacting VFWs, Marine Corps leagues, just anywhere I could. And again, getting the guys to actually talk to me was quite the process. But fortunately, I was just stuck with it, and I'm glad with how it came out.
What is the most interesting story out of all the stories? What sticks in your mind as one or two of the biggest stories you found?
There's one story. I interviewed a guy by the name of Bert Rutan. He was 95 years old when I interviewed him, and Bert landed on Iwo Jima with his best friend. It was a guy named Stan Schaffner, and Stan Schaffner was this all-American kid. He was 20 years old, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, great athlete, thought he might play professional baseball after the war. But when Bert and Stan landed on Iwo Jima, a mortar shell landed, and I'm sorry to say, in Bert's words, Stan's back was blown open. He was killed there, and he died at 20 years old on Iwo Jima. And talking to Bert, and I mean, mind you, this is 70 years later, you could feel the sorrow and the weight that he carried from having watched his best friend die. And then there was a sense of guilt with it too, because, Bert would say, I was just a kid from New Jersey. I had nothing going for me. I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't have, anything. And Stan was this young guy that had a lot going for him. He was smart and athletic, yet he died and I lived. And just sitting down there talking with him, you could feel the weight of that experience. And it was something he carried with him till the day he died. I talked to his daughters as well, and he lived to almost be 100 years old, and he was having nightmares till the day he died. And that story always stuck with me.
It makes sense, and it resonates with me, because when I was listening the other day, I like to list, I've got America's Top 10 Countdown on Real America's Voice TV network. That's my show, and I love top 10 countdowns. And I like to make lists of my top 10 favorite songs of all time, favorite groups of all time, and my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I keep lists like that. And one of my favorite movies of all time is Saving Private Ryan. And that's just like the story you just told, because Tom Hanks dies in that movie. And then at the beginning and the end of the movie, you see this old man in a cemetery crying at the grave of the man who Tom Hanks is playing in the movie, because he died and he lived. Matter of fact, he died, Tom Hanks, in that movie, so that the old man could now live his life. So he's lived like 70 years in America and had kids and grandkids, all because Tom Hanks laid down his life for him. So that sounds like the real life story you're just talking about.
Yeah, that perfectly encapsulates it. And that movie is fantastic, too. I asked a few of the guys if they'd seen it. And there was one guy in particular, Don Thompson, who'd made, I believe, 5 landings in the Pacific. And he said when he watched that opening scene, he could smell diesel fumes again. So that movie really, wow. Hats off to Steven Spielberg for that one. It did a lot for that generation.
How could anybody survive 5 separate landings in the South Pacific? Every single landing you're being fired on the beach, like that movie, with Normandy on the European coast, European theater. It's just, how does anyone? Can you imagine surviving that, and then they tell you, well, we're going to land on a new one next week, and we're going to land on a new one the week after that, and a new one the week after that. There must be a bunch of people that lived through the first one, and then a bunch of people lived through the second one, third one, and then they died in the fourth one. Then a bunch lived through that and died on the 5th one. So if you made it through all 5, man, you got the luck of the Irish on your side, right?
Oh, no kidding. It's incredible. And that's what some of these guys said. There was another guy I talked to that made all 4 landings with the 4th Marine Division. He said, every time you hit a beach, you go, I don't think I'm going to make this next one. You make it, and you go, I don't think I'm going to make the next one. And then by the time they're getting geared up to invade Japan, he goes, holy mackerel, how do I get out of this? This is, I pressed my luck too far. And
we drop an atomic bomb. That's how you got out of it. We dropped the atomic bomb. Whenever anybody debates the morality of that, I just look at him and go, I'm only alive today because my dad didn't die in Japan. They saved my dad's life by dropping an atomic bomb. That's what America's got to worry about, is American lives, not the world. So, yes, it's a terrible thing. It's awful. I'm sorry that Japanese civilians died, but it saved 1 million lives by dropping those bombs. And most of them probably would have been Americans fighting, tooth to tooth, hand to hand, door to door in Japan. Crazy stuff. By the way, it's interesting to note when we talk about landings in the Pacific, Okinawa was the safest landing of all of them. They met no resistance when they landed. It's only when they went inland that my dad said it became hell, and it became the worst battle, one of the worst in the history of mankind. Inland, they were all hiding in the mountains, and they let them land with no fire, which is kind of interesting. The only one like that in the entire Pacific. All right, his website is scottdavisbooks.com. scottdavisbooks.com. His book is The Last of the Old Breed, an oral history of the final Marines from World War II. He interviewed a whole bunch of people, 95 to 103 years old, the best of the best, the greatest generation. scottdavisbooks.com. The Last of the Old Breed. Hoorah! Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
God bless. Thank you. From my Father in heaven, God bless you. All right, Wayne Allyn will be right back. Last segment of the show in a minute.